Hello, and welcome to the FY26 Minigrant workshop for the Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area. I'm Lisa Robbins, the Heritage Programs Coordinator. I'll be sharing a few of the key points for grant applicants in this video workshop, and I'm available at any point to help you throughout the grant process. We are going online this year with a streamlined application. You can access it starting September 1st, and applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on October 3rd. So it's time to start dreaming up your grant proposal and scope of work. Your application will be reviewed by a committee appointed by the Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area Board in October, and funding decisions will be announced by November 7th. Remember that grant activities and spending with grant dollars cannot start until you receive a formal grant offer on November 7th. Most mini grants need to be completed within a year of receiving the award. If at any point in the application process you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Jane or I at grants@chesapeakecrossroads.org. Okay, so let's dive in. To get started, visit chesapeakecrossroads.org and navigate to the dedicated Mini Grants webpage, where you'll find some helpful links, including the FY26 Mini Grant guidelines. Please download these and keep them on hand. The link to the application will be in this yellow block under the helpful links and will go live on September 1st. A few things to think about before you start the application. Projects must be eligible for funding under this grant opportunity. First, projects must be non-capital, meaning funds may be used for program expenses or project activities. It cannot be to include capital investments like depreciable equipment or building repairs or construction. Second, your organization must be in a nonprofit entity or local jurisdiction and in good standing with the state. Third, confirm that your organization and/or the project area are located within our approved heritage area boundaries. Fourth, grant projects must be non-capital in nature, focusing on programs, events, or projects. Review the guidelines to see what types of projects have been funded in the past. Finally, these grant funds cannot support general operational expenses except for the allowable 10% indirect costs. Examples of operational costs include nonprofit-related staff salaries, rent, or utilities. Let's talk money. This grant requires a 1-to-1 match. For every grant dollar awarded, your organization must put in $1 to match it. Any combination of cash and in-kind contributions qualify. The match can come from various sources. Matching funds cannot come from other state sources. This grant is funded by the state of Maryland, so they don't allow the state to match its own dollars. Documentation will be required to explain how funds are spent. Use actual cost estimates to create your budget, and be sure to provide receipts and invoices for the final report. Let's now review the items as they appear in the application. The first section requests information about your organization: address, email, project contact, and FEI number. Next is the project description section. Your project title should be engaging and descriptive, yet concise. Under project description, explain what you are doing, when and where it will take place, who will benefit from it, why you need the money, and how it will be spent. This is also where you describe why your project is unique and why your organization is the best choice to undertake this project at this time. Next is a question about consistency and relevancy. Here is where we want to hear how your project supports the mission and interpretive themes of the Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area. We strongly encourage you to read pages 8 and 13 through 20 of the Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area 5-year action plan and reference how your project aligns with the Heritage Area goals. Links to these are embedded in the application itself for your convenience. Regarding relevance, why does your project need to proceed now? What is the larger context of your project? How does it support your organization's mission and the Chesapeake Crossroads mission and goals? A grant is an investment for the heritage area, so explain how it is furthering your goals as well as Chesapeake Crossroads. The following section explores some of the heritage area's priorities for this fiscal year. Special consideration will be given during the grant review process for projects that further the funding priorities, which include activities, events, or programs that will take place during Maryland Day all week from March 19th to March 25th, 2026. Second, a program or event that involves collaboration with other Chesapeake Crossroads partners. Third, programs or events that relate to commemorate or prepare for activities observing an upcoming historical anniversary, such as the U.S. Semi-Cinquentennial, the 250th, or the founding of the B&O Railroad in 1827. Proposals that will help your organization address unanticipated hardship caused by cuts or delays in federal funding or changes in policies that could negatively impact your organization's programs in FY26. And finally, fifth, projects that produce an interpretive sign or historic marker. Note that projects that align with Chesapeake Crossroads' immediate priorities will receive weighted consideration, but rest assured that we look forward to supporting any project that helps us achieve the goals in our 5-year plan. Reinforce the 4 interpretive themes and demonstrates the capacity for impact and reach within the Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area. Let's talk deliverables. This is where you share details about your desired results and products. These can be tangibles, such as printing 500 brochures or creating 2 new interpretive signs, or intangible, like teaching students oral history methods they can use in the future, or building stewardship and appreciation for preserving local landmarks. Be sure to include your target audience, estimates for how many people you think you might touch with your project, and your marketing plan. How will you get the word out? To make sure that the project is viable, the next section is where we want a few details about your proposed schedule and the work and the crew that will undertake the work. Your schedule can be a narrative or in a timeline format, but should show when key actions or milestones will be completed throughout the course of the grant. Include your proposed start and end dates for each task. Now we want to learn about the key team members or staff who will be responsible for completing the work. Share names and credentials and upload key team members' resumes or CVs. If you are working with any partners, contractors, or consultants, include them here. To upload files, it's a simple click and drag. This information should demonstrate to the grant reviewers that your plan and timeline are reasonable and achievable, and that your team is qualified to see it through. Next, you will be asked about measurable results. How will you and us, as your funder, know that you have succeeded? Share your plans for evaluation and/or assessment. Consider both tangible and intangible results you mentioned in the earlier section, but also share if there are impacts that go beyond the proposed program or grant period. If you are creating a new program, can you use it again in future years? Are you building the infrastructure to benefit many more than just the initial audience? All right, time to dig into the budget section. My best advice is to create a budget based on what you need to have your idea to be successful. Get cost estimates for everything. Use Amazon for basic supply costs, and for bigger ticket items or services, reach out to 2 to 4 companies for estimates. Build your budget using real numbers, not what you think it might cost. The grant requires a 1-to-1 match, which can be either a cash match, an in-kind match, or a combination of the two. For a cash match, you must record the amount of money you are matching, such as money in the bank, or other grant awards, but it cannot be Maryland state grants. In-kind match can include staff time, which the organization pays, or the ever-popular volunteer hours. We have included a space for a proposed overmatch beyond the required one-to-one match. So if this proposal is part of a larger project, you can show how you are leveraging these mini-grant funds here. The itemized project budget allows you to enter each service, consultant, or widget you plan to acquire or use as a unique project item. Write a brief description of the item, service, or widget. Then, in the next block, share how you arrived at the budget amount. For example, under project item, you would write consultant X, like brochure design services. Then under narrative, on details box, you would write 100 hours times $25 an hour, and that's how you arrived at $2,500. Now, you need to tell us how you plan to pay the consultant. Will it come from grant funds, cash match, or in-kind match? You can split an item's cost between multiple items. Look at the examples and process. To add additional lines, click the plus sign to the right of the total item cost. You can add up to 12 lines. If you feel like you need more than that, revisit your work plan and reach out to us. Try to consolidate common activities or items and simplify as much as possible, while of course still being clear. We need to understand where your cash match is coming from. A bank statement, signed grant awards if you're using other grants as matches, donation agreements or pledges are common sources. If they are not in hand, explain when they are expected. In-kind match documentation can include a log of donated volunteer hours. Grant funds can pay for a consultant, but they cannot pay for regular staff. Staff salary paid by the organization may be counted as a cash match, but only for the time solely dedicated to the project. And note that your board members cannot be paid for their work or services, not even as consultants. They can contribute their services in kind, which can either be valued as at the standard volunteer rate. Alternatively, if they are a professional expert in their field and will be donating their services for your project at their professional rate, they must provide a document that states their professional rate and the hours they are donating to the grant. Also, new this year, we will consider requests on a case-by-case basis for the early dispersal of up to 40% of the mini-grant amount up front. We understand that some small organizations face cash flow issues under the reimbursement model and may need part of the funding to kickstart a program or hire a contractor or consultant. If you have a compelling reason for needing some of the grant funds in advance, explain why. If the review committee agrees, they will authorize it as a condition of the grant, and you will receive a percentage upon execution of the grant agreement. You will still need to provide the same financial documentation for those early funds before we can close out your grant. Also new this year is that each grant recipient must submit a midway report so we can ensure that all grantees are on track and in compliance with their grant agreements. If your project is not making progress at the midpoint, we want to help you get back on track. If the grant work is not progressing and there is no compelling reason for the delay, Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area reserves the right to cancel your grant agreement and demand the return of any early release funds. Enough on the budget. What else should you include in your application? While they aren't required, letters of support show community, partner, political, and external backing. This can be especially helpful when funds are limited. We suggest that you prepare a sample or draft letter detailing the project for them to use and preparing an original letter of support. Once you support your application, your work is done and ours has begun. The review committee will read your application, rank them, meet and discuss the projects, and then make the final funding decisions. While we would love to fund all grants fully, limited funding means that partial funding is a possibility, helping to maximize the impact of all worthwhile projects across the heritage area. Let's fast forward to November 7th. Congratulations, you're approved. You will be notified by email on or before November 7th. Your grant agreement will be sent to you by email in the next few days. The grant agreement is a legal document, so please read it carefully and note all requirements. We ask that you sign and return your grant agreement within 30 days. A few things to remember as your projects get underway. First, activities and spending cannot start before November 7th, 2025. Second, keep track of all your expenditures. Copy, scan, and keep all invoices and receipts in one place. I have an Adobe Scan app on my phone, and it has been a lifesaver. Third, keep a written record of staff and volunteer hours. Volunteers can log hours in a simple logbook that serves as documentation at the end of the grant period. Staff can track hours based on their regular payroll reporting system. Don't wait until the end and try to recreate this. You will regret it. Fourth, we will email you at the midway point of your project and hope to hear that all is on track. Please reach out in advance if you encounter any unforeseen circumstances or challenges. Fifth, contact us by email or give us a call to discuss any changes in activity, budget, time frame. We are always available, so please don't surprise us with a significantly different project at the end. We are here to help and can modify your grant agreement as needed. 6. Remember to acknowledge the support of Chesapeake Crossroads and the Maryland Heritage Area Authority. Logos should be included on all print materials, signs, and media. They're available on our website or upon request. And invite us to your opening or event. We love parties. You can also send us press releases and photos so we can share your success. And 7th, when you're ready to close out your project, head back over to the Minigrants page of our website, where you will soon find an online final report form. If you have met all the requirements you committed to in the grant agreement and spent the money as proposed, this should be easy. Similar to the application, your final report will be submitted online. You will provide your final accounting of expenses along with proof like invoices and receipts. Hopefully, you kept them all in one place and clearly labeled. Note which budget line each receipt should be charged to. We need this to verify against your actual budget. Include written documentation of donations and volunteer hours. The online form will also help you generate an invoice for the financial disbursement request. We hope this video has helped you prepare for completing the new online grant application. And there's one last step, and that is to complete a short quiz to prove that you watched the video and slide deck. Here's the link for the 5-question quiz. And don't worry, if you miss a question, you can repeat it as often as you need to get an A+. Jane and I are happy to help or offer feedback on your application. Just email us at grants@chesapeakecrossroads.org or call 410-222-1805. Happy writing. Good luck.